I thank you guys for coming so much. So many friends and, from very long time, so I appreciate you being here. It's really an honor for us to be able to have Enes with us here because he is just such a hero, obviously, as you see on the news. He's like a rock star, and
Wait, is that him?
Let me just tell you a little bit about Hardwired and the background and why we're here, and then I'm going to have Victoria share a little bit about Enes, then we want to give him his award and let him share and let you guys ask some questions because many of you had some questions for him. So many of you have known me and known this journey that I have started on with Hardwired 9 years ago. But for those that don't, 9 years ago I had this vision after working in Congress to start a human rights organization that would help people find freedom in the countries where it just doesn't exist. And where we are here tonight, we have the ability to speak freely, to live our lives, and yet most of the world, that's just it's a death sentence for people to be able to speak their minds or to share their faith or to explore their faith or to practice it. And so in those kinds of countries, what Hardwired does is we train people within the legal aspect, and then we also train people within the education arena. And so we have kind of two prongs to our work. And then the legal arena, it's really cool because my friend Baccarat is back here. Say hello, Baccarat. Baccarat and I went to Nepal with Skip. Raise your hand, Skip. When Nepal was shoving through a new constitution, and we had done a training there like a year earlier when I was literally this pregnant with my daughter who's back there. I was 7 months pregnant. They almost didn't let me out of Turkey, actually. Thank you, Enes. They almost didn't literally, that was another story. But I went to Nepal, we trained a bunch of parliamentarians, and they ended up not shoving through a constitution that was going to be a Hindutva constitution like India, but actually providing some religious freedom protections and secular provisions to ensure some protection. It wasn't perfect, but it was great. And that's the kind of work we do in many different countries, from Iraq to Nepal to Sudan, South Sudan, Nigeria, and many other parts of the world. And several of the people here have been a part of that as lawyers, as religious freedom experts, international human rights experts. The educational side of what we do has been really fun because when we were in Iraq working on some legal issues right after the genocide, we had a group of teachers in one of our trainings. We had journalists, teachers, lawyers, and government leaders, and the teachers in our program developed this beautiful lesson called The Peaceful Garden, which is in a book on the here. Sorry, I'm supposed to be on camera. Here you go. We're on Facebook Live. The teachers wrote this beautiful lesson after these trainings we had done on the law. We have all of them implemented what we learned with what they're trained in their respective spheres of influence. And so they wrote this lesson about a garden where they took all the refugees that had been displaced by ISIS to a garden, and they said, pick a bouquet of flowers from whatever flowers you want out of this beautiful garden, but just don't choose this one color. So the kids went and they totally, ransacked the garden, destroyed it, made beautiful bouquets, and we're very proud of them. But when the teacher said, okay, look back at the garden, what happened? They looked back and they realized that they had destroyed it. And the teacher said to them, well, this is what happened when ISIS came in. They destroyed everybody except for the people that looked and believed like them. Is that the kind of place you want to live? And so the students all had tears in their eyes and were like, no, because they remembered what it was like when ISIS had came in and displaced everybody, regardless of whether they were Muslim, Christian, Yazidi, or whatever. And so they said, no, we want to rebuild it. So the teachers gave them seeds and helped them replant the garden. And over several months, they taught them about the human rights that they all shared and the freedoms that they all shared. And they restored it together, and then the kids came back and they said, the one kid said, well, I thought he was a Yazidi. He said, I thought this kid that's a Muslim was like ISIS, but I realized now that he's just like me. He was just displaced like me. So they really broke down their prejudices and the misconceptions they had of another, and they replaced it with these seeds of hope and peace and freedom and love for one another and the dignity of others, that they could actually have a society where they didn't have to be afraid of each other. And so now that lesson, then the government of Iraq said, well, we want this everywhere. So after a lot of grant proposals and writing, we were able to expand that, not just in Iraq, but in Kosovo and in Lebanon and Jordan and Morocco and many other countries. And now the government in northern Iraq, in Mosul, has given us permission to train all of their teachers in Mosul, where ISIS lived and had really just destroyed any sense of freedom or dignity in the community, any sense of peace. And so Muslims and Christians and others are now living together, and they're sharing these lessons of the Peaceful Garden in their schools. They're performing plays on Fruitopia, another book we have, and they're learning how to respect the freedom and dignity of one another in Mosul. And I was just there actually about a few weeks ago, and so I got to see that firsthand and what was happening in Mosul. And it's just beautiful to see the seeds of peace that are growing there. But it's not just in Iraq. Now the government in Kurdistan, next to Mosul, has asked us to train all of their teachers. And in Kosovo, they've just given us permission in their government to train the entire country, all the teachers in Kosovo. And in Lebanon, the same thing. And so the work and the seeds that we planted many years ago are just snowballing, and it's amazing to see what's happening. So from the first little steps in Nepal and Iraq and South Sudan and Sudan, to see how this vision has grown has just been a huge blessing. So I see every day, just to make that short, what happens when the people we work with really risk their lives to stand up for freedom. And it's not always easy. I mean, when these teachers first went back into Mosul, they didn't know if they would survive. They didn't know what would happen, and members of ISIS were still in the community, and it didn't matter that they were Muslim, they could still be attacked by them. One Muslim teacher that wanted to go back to Sinjar, where the Yazidis were, he was terrified because he said the Yazidis are just going to shoot and kill me, so I can't go back in, but they need these lessons, because if they don't get these lessons, we'll never be able to live in peace. We'll never have the freedom that you've taught us. And so these teachers are literally risking their lives in all these places to help people find freedom and dignity and peace. And it's amazing to be a part of that work. But because I see every day the risks that it takes, when I see someone with the courage, even in the West, to stand up and to be willing to risk so much, to stand up for the freedom and dignity of others, and to lose so much, it's very it's a very sober feeling and place to be in, because we often, we live in this beautiful place, and we often take our freedoms for granted and don't count the costs of what those freedoms are. And so we have with us someone today that this week we've been able to honor, because he really has made the ultimate sacrifice for freedom, not for himself, but for people who don't have that voice in countries where their organs are being harvested. It's something that we can't even understand, where, in so many different countries where he's spoken out against the kinds of human rights violations, it's a life and death reality for people. They don't have their freedom to express themselves, to share their beliefs. And I've worked on many of those cases for many years, so I know what that risk is, and I know how important his voice is. And let me just backtrack 1 second and just say, when I worked in the US Congress, I remember working with people all over the world. And they would often tell me, Tina, it might not mean a lot to you to pass this legislation, or to make a floor statement about somebody's freedom, or to mention someone on TV. But in that country, whether it's China or Sudan or Nigeria or Iraq or wherever else, it often means that they won't be tortured that day in prison. It means that they won't be killed because the government's put on notice that they're remembered. And I can't tell you how many people I know have been saved, whose lives have survived that torture, that punishment, that detention, whether it's in China or in any other country, because they had somebody just speaking up for them here. And so when you see people that are, in Hollywood or in the media, and take for granted and take lightly all these causes that they celebrate, but then attack someone who actually does the right thing, it makes you think, well, the real courage is what that person's doing. It's not what you're doing. And those are the kind of people we need more people. We need more voices like that. We need more people that are standing up like that. And so I'm going to turn to Victoria, who's going to share a little bit about Enes and why we're giving him this award. But I wanted to put it in context, and I want Enes to share. So thank you, Victoria.
Hi everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Victoria Tigas. I've been working for Tina now for Hardwired for a couple of years. It's been an amazing journey. I've learned a lot, and it's been an honor to work for someone like Tina. I'm the Outreach and Development Officer, so anything you need to know about Hardwired, ask away, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. So first of all, really quick, before I introduce our guest of honor, I wanted to thank Eric over here. Eric, thank you so much. This is his home, his beautiful home. So thank you so much for hosting this 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 gathering. And then also thank you all. So as a lot of you know, Hardwired is actually based in Richmond, Virginia, on the other side of the country. But to know that we have a community of people here as well, like, you know, representing us, you know, on the other side of the country is, you know, it's humbling, and we're just so grateful that you're here, and we hope that you continue to kind of be on this journey with us and stay connected with us. Tina and I are always available, you know, year round, to talk to you over the phone, even though we're not here and able to meet with you in person all the time. We are always available to kind of keep you updated on what we're doing around the world. So please always feel free to reach out, and we'd love to, you know, have you continue on this journey with us. So now about our guest of honor. So some of you may be wondering how we got connected. So I think a couple of months ago, a relative of mine actually who works in Congress, connected Enes with us. And Enes, as you can imagine, is so busy, so extremely busy. So, you know, obviously he was an athlete in the NBA, and then, you know, afterwards, and he'll explain a little more about that next, but, you know, he has, you know, really made like a big wave in the human rights space, and he has been very, very busy traveling all around the world, helping to advance religious freedom, human rights, etc. But he took the time to hear about Hardwired on the phone. And after I gave my Hardwired spiel, I'll never forget, there was like a moment of silence, and then he said, "This sounds amazing. How can I be involved? How can I help?" And you know, that is like my first impression of Enes. He, you know, with all the other things that are going on in his world, and you know, with the work that he's doing, you are so humble, and he is willing to help other organizations who are doing similar work, and we are so grateful for that. And Enes, I'll let you kind of explain your journey and your story, but you know, just very briefly, you know, Enes has sacrificed a lot. He's sacrificed his livelihood, his job, his, you know, communication with his own family in Turkey in order to advance religious freedom for all people all around the world. And we are so grateful and thrilled to have you as someone who is on this journey with us, who will support us. We will, of course, support you as well. And we're just excited to collaborate and to work on future programs. So without further ado, Enes, can you come up, and we will award you our Hardwired of Freedom Award.
We don't give these out very often, just so you know. There's only been one other, to Kathy Ireland, who's a huge fan of yours.
Yes,
So I want you to know she's been texting me all week. I love Enes. He's amazing. Her and her husband just had an accident, so he couldn't be here, but they were so thrilled and wanted you to know how grateful that they are for you and for like just the amazing voice you've been. So Enes,
thank you so much.
Okay, so I want to just turn it over to Enes and let him share.
Of course.
Yep. Take it away.
Thank you so much. You know, first of all, I want to thank Tina, Vic, and Hardwired family for organizing this beautiful event. I remember talking to them, like Vic said, Victoria. Just keep using your. I know, just keep using her nickname, but Victoria. A couple months ago, and she told me about this beautiful organization, and I got so excited. I was like, this is what I'm actually trying to do, you know. And then we actually get to meet with, you know, Tina and Victoria around a month ago at a summit, and they pretty much gave me like the whole spill of it, and it was it was amazing. But this is what I will say: I'm definitely honored to be here, not only because of this award, but the last 6-7 months has been very lonely. It has been very lonely, and it just gives me so much hope, and it makes me actually so happy, even get together with this, you know, just beautiful people like you guys, when I see people who are standing up for the right thing, standing up for freedom, standing up for, you know, human rights and democracy, not just in America but around the world, you know. And when I say last 6 7 months has been really really lonely, it does mean, because the people who I thought they were my family, didn't even text me. Forget about a call. Didn't even text me back and say, "Hey man, good luck with your next chapter." Because they were scared that whenever I'm out there on TV, that I will just mention one of their names, which I would never do without their permission, So it has been very lonely the last 6 7 months. But like I said again, whenever I meet with beautiful people like you guys, it does give me so much hope for the future. So this award definitely more than just an award to me. It just gives me hope for the future, And with that being said, I'm sure I don't want to give you guys a whole spill of the story. I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions. And
Can you tell us about your foundation?
of course, yes, really good question. So, really good one.
I'm gonna help you.
So I appreciate that. So thank you for reminding me. But I was like, I want to be able to. Well, right now, unfortunately, there is no basketball. The reason is when you stand up for some of the things that are happening around the world, and when those things that affects the organization that you play with, money and business and all that stuff, they're gonna do everything they can to silence you. And I was like, the fight is not over. I could be out of the league because of some of the things that I talk about, but I have to continue to fight for what's right, because every year there are so many young kids are coming in the league. There are so many people from from the college, from high school, from internationally, from the draft coming to the NBA, and I want to leave them a story where they can look and be like, wow, the door has been opened. So we just need to walk in and step for what's right. So I created this foundation. It's my foundation. It focuses on freedom, democracy, human rights, social harmony, and poverty alleviation around the globe. But I wanted to do something very unique. I wanted to use basketball to actually bring people together, because you could be from different backgrounds, different colors, different religions, or different whatever. Everyone loves basketball. Everyone loves NBA, especially the kids, So I feel like that little basketball can change so much in our world. I was just in Israel, like 7 days ago, right? And we did a basketball camp. And at basketball camp, there's Muslims and Jews and Christians and Israelis and Palestinians and all this Druzis and all this, people from different backgrounds and religion came, and we only talked one language, and it was basketball. And I remember there was this moment I keep telling about some of my friends about it because it really touched my heart. I remember we are playing 5-on-5 with the kids, and I'm actually playing with them. So something happened. One of the guys shot the ball. Missed it. I got the rebound. I dribbled the one. I give it to this Jewish kid, right? He took one dribble. He crossed someone over, and he passed it to a Palestinian girl, right? And then she took one dribble and she scored a ball. While she was coming back, they high-fived each other. I was like, I've been doing, I don't even know, maybe thousands of basketball camps my whole life, and this was like the most beautiful, moment I ever had. Actually, that later on, the coach came to me and told me about her. First, when she heard that I'm doing a basketball camp, she wanted to come. And later on, she learned that it was going to be in Israel, and she said, no way, I am not going. And her parents, I'm glad that they were really educated. They talked to her and it's like, hey, just give it a chance. And this is coming, just give it a chance and see what happens. And she said, okay, but this is the last time in my life. I'm not going to do this ever again. So she came to basketball camp, and first couple hours she was really shy, and then obviously she opened up. She started to talk with some of the other Jewish kids and some of the other coaches and stuff. And a week later, she came and apologized, to her coach and her teammates, in front of everybody, and say, sorry guys, I just didn't know any better. These kind of stories definitely build in our future. So I feel like using that basketball. So that's why the foundation to me is so important, because it builds our future. So good question. I appreciate that. Thank you. So just put this here.
Yeah,
So if you guys have any questions.
What's the name of your foundation?
Enes Kanter Freedom Foundation. I had to add the
Really
freedom.
easy, really easy.
I had to add the freedom. Yes, sir.
Not sure if you're able to tell, but where are you from in Turkey?
So I actually born in Switzerland, and I am from Turkey. My family still lives in Turkey, and yeah, I came here when I was 17 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
So this is more of a comment than a question, but something that you always mention this in your interviews, and I love hearing this. So as many of you know, Hardwired Global, we do, primarily we do education programs. So we kind of target children as the next generation of people who can embody and exemplify freedom of religion, belief, conscience, and human rights in general. And so something that you always say though is, for a better future, we have to teach and educate our children. And so I just kind of want you to speak to that a little bit.
Of course. You know, I tell this story every time. My friend Omar probably heard it like the last 3 days, or probably like 10 times. But I want to tell you guys how I grew up, so you guys have a better understanding of why what Hardwired and what my foundation is doing is so important. So I grew up in Turkey in a very tough environment. I remember, you know, growing up, it's not like America. You don't have the freedom that we have in here. It's a different world in the Middle East, especially in Turkey. And you know, I grew up in Turkey. Turkey was going through some really tough time, politically really tough time. And I remember, you know, one day I went downstairs to play with my friends, and I went downstairs. What I saw that day, I still cannot forget till this day. You know, they were burning American flags. They were burning, you know, Israeli flags. They were breaking crosses. They actually give me an Israeli flag. Was it Israeli or American? I can't remember. They told me to burn it, but I got so scared. I threw it down. Went upstairs to my mom. I was like, Mom, you know, they were like, what do I do? They're telling me to, you know, burn American flags. They're telling me to hate Americans, hate Jewish people. They're devil. Like, what do I do, right? I'm glad, you know, my family was really educated. They were really focused on education. My mom is like, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but do not hate anyone before you meet them. I'm not sure if you guys have any friends from Middle East. I'm sure you guys do. You guys can ask them, but I have a friend here who was from Iran. Yes. I don't know if that's like that in your country or not, but yes. So in some of the Middle Eastern countries, you know, you have schools and you have classes, right? You have thousands of kids. So front of classes, they put American flag and they put Israeli flag. And if you don't step on them, then you're not allowed to attend the class. So to get in the class, you have to step on American flag first, and then you have to step on the Israeli flag, then you can attend the class. You know, just, I mean, you guys can ask it to, I don't know if was it like that in Iran? Okay. So, you know, I grew up.
America came from Iran.
The what?
Death to America came from Iran.
There you go. So that comes from America. So you are growing in an environment like that. So you just don't know any better. And think about it, and that's how I grew up in the last 17 years. And then I come to America, right? And I finally meet with Americans. And obviously first time I'm like, don't know what to do because I'm like so nervous because the last 17 years I thought I'm sure you guys are Americans, you guys are the devil. That's what I thought. You know, I thought that you guys are like gonna hurt me or something. Anyway, so and then I start meeting them. I start having conversation with them and stuff, and you know, they were making me really comfortable, you know, at home and stuff. I remember, I don't know, is anyone Jewish here? No, okay, so I remember going to my Shabbat dinner for the first time ever. You know, it was the craziest thing because it was a really good friend. She told me that she was Jewish later. I probably wouldn't become a friend with her because in the beginning, because I just didn't know about them enough. And I remember going to her house for the first time. I told my friends like, hey, if you don't hear from me the next 3 hours, you know, call the police because I just don't know any better, you know. And my friend is like, dude, make sure they don't brainwash you. Make sure they don't put anything in your food, blah blah. So like because that's how I grew up. That's the environment I grew up in, right? So and then later on, I mean, we had an amazing time with her. Now I'm like best friends with all these people, you know. But so that's why I was so touched by what they're doing and what I was doing because of it. It builds the future. If you really care about our future, right? I mean, some of the Middle Eastern countries, whatever, they're gonna do what they do. You cannot really change their mindset. But if we can build the young generation, when they become in our age, they're gonna make the right decisions, and the conflicts, all the conflicts will come to an end. I hope so. That's what we are hoping. And the best way to use it is basketball, because the people in the government that makes the decision, but at the end of the day, people on the streets and kids on the streets are dying, getting bombed and dying. So what we want to do, we want to take those kids who are dying and who are getting bombed on the streets and put them on basketball court. Instead of them playing with bombs, they're going to play with basketball. What's better than that? So. Yes, sir.
So, you changed your name,
Uh-huh.
for obvious reasons? Was it that?
There's actually another funny story behind it. So I'll tell you the story. So I came here when I was 17 years old for the first time. I actually went to high school in Simi Valley, California. And I remember it was my first practice ever with the team. So we had an amazing practice. We came in the locker room, right? And after the hard practice, everyone just sits and hang out on their phone and stuff. So I remember one of my teammates post something on his Facebook account, and he was criticizing the president, right? And I immediately turned around. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And he was like, what happened? I was like, well, I saw your post. And he was like, okay. I was like, well, you might be in jail tomorrow, you know? Well, because that's how I grew up in Turkey, you know, because I'll tell you a crazy story. My manager's wife's dad, which was Turkish, liked one of my posts on Twitter. He was in jail for 13 days.
Wow.
For 13 days, like, and actually, it's on internet because it's so hard to believe. If you don't believe me, you guys actually can go and check it out. Anyway, so they all started to laugh. They're like, and one of them said, like, dude, this is not Turkey, this is America. And I was like, what do you mean? So he tried to explain to me about what freedom of speech, religion, expression, protest means, what democracy and human rights is about. And I was just so confused because I did not grow up with that, you know? Because you have fear of, like, if you say anything, if you criticize the government, if you say anything against the president, then you'll be in jail the next day. And then, you know, the time goes on, I started to understand what freedom really means. I was like, this is like the most beautiful, after food and water, whatever, that's like the most important thing that a human being can have. So I was like, you know what, let's do something crazy. Let's change my last name, put that word on behind my jersey so we can inspire millions of kids, right? We did that. So now every arena I was going to, people were just screaming freedom and stuff. So it was an amazing time. So.
Okay, one last question, I promise. So at the International Religious Freedom Summit that Tina and I attended recently in July in DC, I asked Enes when you sat down with him, I asked you, was there ever a moment when you were deciding between your career, your basketball career, the NBA, and doing human rights work, where you just, like, I just cannot give up the thing that I love so much, basketball. And I want to ask you again so that everyone can hear your answer.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, first of all, I love basketball. I work so hard to get to this level, you know, and when it's come to an end the way that it did, it shatters my heart, you know. But people need to understand, while we are dribbling the basketball here on the other side of the world, other side of the ocean, people are getting tortured and raped every day in prisons, in concentration camps. So we need to be on the right side of the history. You know, you see, it was just, I remember for the first time I talk about the problems that are happening, I started with Turkey. Because there are so many violations that are happening, the corruption scandal, this and that. So I was like, I put a tweet out there, a simple tweet, right? And it became a conversation because of the NBA platform, and later on I started to pay attention about what's going on in my country more, and I started to talk about the problems that are happening. I want to tell you guys about this story because it shows that how blessed we are in the situation in America, because so many of my teammates love to criticize what we are having here because they don't know any better. They don't travel enough. Some of my teammates who criticize and whatever about in America, I wish I can just take him and put him in countries like China, Iran, Russia, North Korea, Venezuela, Cuba and stuff, right? So the things that I talk about affecting me and my family, just because of I was talking about the human rights violations and political prisons and stuff. My dad was a scientist. He lost his job. My sister went to medical school for 6 years. She still cannot find a job. My little brother was playing basketball. He got kicked out in every team. You know, they were getting affected so much they had to put a statement out there and said, we are disowning Enes. Turkish government didn't believe that. They sent police to my house in Turkey and they raided the whole house and they took every electronics away because they wanted to see if I am still in contact with my family or not. They couldn't find no evidence, but they still took my dad in jail for a while just because of the things that I talk about, you know, about human rights and freedom. But thanks to DC, we put so much pressure on them, they had to let him go. And then they revoked my passport, they put my name on Interpol list. I'm still, till this day, considered as an international criminal, actually. And then, you know, later on you see Turkey is only one small dictatorship. When you go out there, you see other dictatorships like China, right? And one of the parents, when I was doing a basketball camp, called me in front of everybody and said, how can you call yourself a human rights activist when your Muslim brothers and sisters are getting tortured and raped every day? So then I started to study about China. I talk about it, and once I talk about it, it was not like Turkey. You know, I talk about the problems that happened in Turkey. The last 10 years, I did not get one phone call. I talk about the problems that happened in China. My phone was ringing once every hour. They were saying, dude, are you crazy? What are you doing? And this was not the NBA, the player union, which the organization is supposed to have my back against the NBA, has you know, supposed to protect my rights. You know, once I started criticizing China and Nike, I mean, we knew that it was over. One of my teammates woke up to me and said, dude, this is your last year in the league, you're not going to get another contract after this. And that was it. You know, February 8th, I got released, and that was the last time I played basketball in NBA. A lot of people are asking me, was it worth it? I mean, of course, I love basketball. I just turned 30. I could have played another 6 years, and like someone from my level could have signed probably 7 to 8 million a year. So 6 times 8 is like 48 million. With endorsement deals and stuff, that cost me around like $50 million, you know? And just the things that I wanted to like stand up. But you know what? Because at the end of the day, I'm putting myself in their shoes. I'm saying like if my daughter, I don't have a daughter, but I'm just saying if I had one, if my daughter, if my sister was in those concentration camps and getting tortured and raped every day, would I really care about the 50 million? Not forget about the 50 million. Even if I was like $200 million, I would not really care, because while we are playing basketball on the other side of the world, people are losing their lives, losing their homes, and losing their loved ones, you know? So I was just like shaking my teammates so hard. I was like, dude, you know, just join me. Just join me, and it will become a movement, and more people will step up and come forward. It was the perfect time. It was right before the Beijing Olympics, right? And I try to reach out to so many people from the different, not just in NBA, but different organizations. Also, I even try to reach out to Olympians. You know, they said, listen, man, keep doing what you're doing, but we cannot support you because shoe deals, endorsement deals, and jersey sales, and blah, 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 whatever, right? But they never put themselves in their shoes. Empathy was the key, but unfortunately they couldn't, they didn't. It is what it is though. You know, I mean, I'm sure they're gonna make a lot of money from their contracts and endorsement deals and stuff, but God will ask them, I give you this platform, why didn't you use it for good, for my work, you know, so.
Wow.
Of course, yeah.
Thank you. All right, just one and then.
Okay. This is like the short and the tall.
All right.
Stand up, Tina.
Jeez.
I'm gonna get
One
in
more.
a chair really quick. So one day Abigail's gonna be as tall as him. I'm gonna look really short.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all so much for being here, and I'm glad that you shared about